5.1 is the one notice of motion regarding the intersection Napier Road, Kittle Drive, Arrowsmith intersection, and suggested notice of motion that I've put forward there. Obviously, I felt that there was too much. So just to back it up a little bit, that intersection was fully funded by NZTA at the time on their suggestion to traffic experts. So we went ahead with that, but as a safety guard, we put in the long-term plan 2027 the possible inclusion of a roundabout or traffic lights. So I just believe there's been too much ongoing concern. You've seen it all. You've seen all the commentary on Facebook, I just feel responsible that we must discuss this situation further. So this suggested notice of motion is just to be able to discuss bringing forward those works if I get the support around the council table to bring that forward. There's been a number of incidences there, 6 actually collisions. So in a fairly, what I can see is a short space of time. So I'm happy to move the notice of motion, but I'd ask for Councillor's comment beforehand. Councillor Westerman.
So if NZTA authorised the first and paid for it, can we actually oversee their decision on the style of intersection they wanted there?
Well, Mr. Green might like to explain. They fully funded it on the basis that was their suggestion, correct?
Correct.
Correct. So if we now want to change that suggestion, we'll be funding how much of it?
It's unknown at this point, so it could be all of it. We would obviously be making the application to NZTA the same as what we do for all of our projects. Whether or not they chose to fund a component of it would be up to them at that time. They forward funded this change given that the intersection used to be state highway, obviously pre the ETA, and has been one of the top 10 worst intersections in the country for some time. So one of the conversations at that stage was that they funded the change, and the change of priority was the preferred method at that point. It's now local road. There's nothing stopping us from doing the work ourselves, but it then comes down to who pays that, and that conversation hasn't happened.
Councillor Mack.
So even though it's changed to us owning it now, I think going back, if it was a bad decision on their part, and we can prove that it's worse now, if we can, would it not be that they'd have to rectify by actually paying towards the roundabout, or whatever we decide? Good question.
So I guess the key of that question would be, can you prove that it's worse now, and is it the intersection which is causing that, or is it driver behaviour, etc.? So yeah, that would be a whole different kettle of fish. I don't know, Dennis, do you want to add anything?
Well, previously, sorry to butt in, it was in the top 10 worst intersections in New Zealand. So they would argue that it was worse. Well, I would imagine. I'm not, but Dennis. Dennis, come on forward.
So
the question is.
So I'll let Dennis answer some of the technical stuff. But through the chair, the thing that I want to manage is expectations here. The team who put the applications into NZTA all of the time, we think it's pretty unlikely that we'd get any funding at all for something that's advanced in this space, just because of what they are funding and what they've turned down before. It doesn't look like we'd have a strong case in their eyes for this, unfortunately.
So just to clarify a couple of things, NZTA did not tell us to change the priority in the intersection. They funded the work at the intersection. As Kevin has alluded to, we would need to seek approval from NZTA for funding for it. The chances, normally they would allocate funding over a 3-year cycle, like we have our long-term plan cycle. That cycle obviously finishes in 2021. Whether we could get funding earlier than that, I don't know. But as Kevin's alluded to, yeah,
Okay.
I'm not too sure.
Just to clarify that, the change of direction.
Yep.
The change of direction, that decision was made because of the transport, the traffic movements from
Yes, that's
from-
correct.
from north to south was more than east to
Correct.
west.
The primary traffic movements are Kittle Drive, Arrowsmith Ave, rather than Napier Road.
Right.
Yes.
Councillor Taylor and then Councillor Body.
Just a couple of points in terms of that. So, in terms of the treatment and top 10 safety-related intersections in the country, if that is one of them, and I'm not aware that it is, I know of 2 others within the region. One is State 5 and one at Tiro, which was fixed with a roundabout, and the other one was at Hemo Gorge in Rotorua, which was fixed with a roundabout, and a third intersection at Wairaki, which is obviously a roundabout because of the ETA going through. But it seems to me if that safety is a consideration and roundabouts have been used by NZTA extensively to remedy that, we should have a fairly compelling argument to put forward to them on that basis. Whether they accept it or not, it's up to them, obviously.
Thank you. Councillor Body.
Could I ask, Mr. Lewis, could you just qualify, you said NZTA funded the work at the intersection, so was that the whole intersection, that i.e. the stop sign, the light?
Yes.
Well, originally in our budget was allocated 100,000.
That's
In
correct.
the financial year at the end of October it had gone to 159.
That's correct.
So my question would be, if NZTA was so sure what they were putting in for X, which must have been that 100, where was the override and what is the competency of NZTA to do what they did? And to follow up from Councillor Taylor's comment, why did they not come to us with a roundabout?
As I explained earlier, NZTA did not tell us to do to change the priority. That was a decision that we made
In conjunction with traffic experts.
in conjunction with the traffic experts, and that was largely based on the volume of traffic that was travelling up and down Arrowsmith Ave and Kittle Drive as opposed to Napier Road.
We went with them, Mr. Chairman, so those experts were NZTA,
No, the traffic engineers,
and where did those engineers come from?
consultants.
That's not what I really asked.
Yeah,
We've
so
got
that
an-
we engaged those consultants.
Because we've got another example of what happened at the Northern Outlet where we budgeted 100 and went to 141. I'm starting to doubt the advice that we're getting on a number of areas, and this is one of them. There was a email we got this morning about one, and we put the giveaway signs back and the other 2 streets not going to work. I think we don't pass this resolution, we just move on and advocate a roundabout for about 500,000 or less.
What I'm saying in this resolution is that we will seek, to bring forward the possible roundabout, but during that time, when we're discussing that implementation of that, I think all those measures will be discussed because we have the final say at the end of the day. So what I'm just trying to indicate is here, we need to carry on the conversations of this particular intersection.
Through the chair.
Councillor
Through the chair.
Williamson.
Is this different from the historical arrangement with the NZTA where they fund 51% around safety, like for example widening roads and polyphony roads? Is this different, conceding if they concede it is a safety issue, if they accept that?
This was different in that it was identified around the time that we were looking at the transfer of the ETA and local roads. And we negotiated with NZTA to say with these, there were 3 intersections within the district. There was Napier, Kittle and Poihipi, Wairaki and Wairaki Karatoto or Hooker Falls by the helicopter CAF there. We had a discussion about that helicopter CAF last year. What was required there. So because they'd identified those, and when they identified it, they were all linked intersections with the state highway. So they had identified those as for intersections in terms of safety. So we got them to agree to fund some safety works. They agreed to fund the minimum safety works that were required at the time.
Very good. Councillor Rankin.
Can I just make the point that there are several people who think it's working really well, and I've had quite a lot of contact over the last week or so, and say that all we need is a flashing sign on either side of the road to warn people before they get to the intersection. I think we're going to end up with the same kind of views we had with the traffic lights, which doesn't make any difference. It's just a point that some people believe it's working very well.
Councillor Mack.
I was actually going to go down that track. If just as a question, if you were to put a police car on the side of the road there with its lights flashing 24 hours a day, would we have any accidents?
Yeah. Difficult question. Well, there are flashing lights now, east to west. East to west. There's quite a large, significant neon sign. You know, I don't want it to put it too simplistic. To me, as a reasonably experienced driver, not too many demerit points. It just doesn't feel right. It just doesn't feel right. And everyone, well, I feel, and you're dead right, Councillor Rankin, you got people that when it stop, you stop. You're supposed to stop. We understand that. But they just, I just want to have an analysis of what the potential is of bringing one forward and discuss, no doubt, the further safety aspects and all that will come out in that bit of information. But Councillor Park.
Yes, thank you, Your Worship. I'm happy to second this notice of motion. It's not necessarily around the roundabout per se, but also what alternate intersection treatments there might be. I think travelling through that intersection at least once a day, even if the road was sort of smoothed out or there was some, I'm not quite sure, there are definitely some visibility issues which I'm really concerned about. So I would like to see some work or some research done on what we might do to better improve it.
Okay. Any other further comments? I've moved it and it's been seconded. I'll put the motion. All those in favour, please say aye. Those against?
I'm voting no on the basis of what I said before. I don't believe any further analysis needs to be given. Further work was done when it wasn't working. We've gone down that track. I think we move on. And the suggestion is that roundabout.
What was the last comment, sorry? Well, that's what we're, sorry.
Is to prepare an analysis, which means someone has to do the work to prepare the analysis.
Oh, okay.
That's using the money that I don't believe that we need to use.
Yeah. Okay. So the motion is carried, and would you like your against, record Councillor Body against? Thank you. Item number 5. Thank you, Dennis. 5.2. Oh, you're back up here. Retaining walls at Acacia Bay Road and Whai Terrace. Mr. Lewis.
Thank you, Your Worship, Councillors. We have an agenda item here for acceptance of a tender for contract 1920-297, retaining walls at Acacia Bay Road. I'm going to take the item as read. Just point out a couple of things. There is a number of, go back about 12, 18 months ago, we had a geotechnical engineer have a look at the site. It's basically two areas, one between Whai Terrace and Acacia Bay, and between Acacia Bay and the lakefront. In the past, we have had slippage on the Whai Terrace down to Acacia Bay, and we've built a number of retaining walls there in the last 2 or 3 years. And we've been dealing with it in a piecemeal process. So what we've done is we looked at the whole site, that whole area, identified where retaining walls were required, put a matrix around it about prioritising what was required and when it was required, and then we've set about putting together a design package and a tender package to take care of the priority sites. So within this tender package, the total number of sites was 18 sites that we'd identified. Of those 18, we've got 6 included within this tender package. 5 of them are high risk for geotech reasons, and 1 for safety issues for the pedestrians. So that tender package has been put out. We have very good interest with this tender, and the success, well, the recommendation is to award it to CAMEX Civil. They are currently working on the Great Lake Walkway. They've also completed prior to Christmas the car parks down on Turangi-Tongariro Street and Robert Street area. Obviously they've got a lot of work on here in Taupo, so we did make some inquiries and they have confirmed they've got suitable resourcing to be able to do the work. They propose to start that work around mid-March, and depending on whether we allow a full road closure or a lane closure will depend on how long the work goes, but somewhere in the order of 3 to 4 months for those 6 retaining walls.
Very good. Thank you, Mr. Lewis. Questions, Councillor Park?
Yes, thank you, Dennis. With the, once the sites which are on the lake side, is there any access to project watershed funding for those, or are they too far back?
No, they're too far back, so they don't actually encroach in the lakefront. They're retaining the footpath road rather than getting down to the lake level.
Sure.
Yes.
And just in regards to the tender process, and you've actually outlined the attributes and
Yes.
the weightings, what consideration was given to the local companies?
There is no specific consideration given to local companies within our procurement policy, which we follow. Just from memory, I'm not sure whether there were any specific local companies other than the likes of a Downer or something like that. I just can't remember all of the companies that were in tenders.
Taylor Long. I'm not
Taylor,
sure.
yep.
Thanks, Councillor Park. Councillor Guy and then Councillor Taylor. Oh, sorry. Okay, yeah, cool. Okay, yeah. The procurement policy is quite a clear policy, so I'm sure that will be a subject that will come up at some stage, just to add there. Councillor Taylor.
So through the chair, just the 18 sites identified, are any of those sites that have already had remediation done in the list of 2000 through to 2018?
No,
So they're all brand new sites?
all brand new sites.
Great, thank you.
Very good. Councillor Westerman, you're all right. Yep, so my only question is CAMEX Civil done a great job from what they've done so far. They've definitely given you the commitment. They've got the ability to complete this project.
Yes.
Yeah, and certainly from my view, a partial closure is better than a full closure, but I'm sure you guys will work that out. All right, any other questions?
Through the chair.
Yes, Councillor Williamson.
Just with respect to the regional council resource consent, obviously with the Te Whātua Trust Board, is expecting a formal response? Where do you feel that is in the timeline to get this going?
That is any time now. We're just waiting for Te Whātua Trust Board to provide feedback, and that was going to be forthcoming just before Christmas, but we expect it any day.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah. And just, sorry, John, Councillor Body, just liaison with the Acacia Bay Residents Association and all that sort of thing will naturally take place.
That will take place
Good
once-
neighbourhood activities and, yep, letter drops and that. Yep. Councillor Body?
Mr Lewis is currently budgeted for, is that from renewals?
No, this is a new work, new CapEx.
So it's not in the 1920 plan?
Yes, it is.
Oh. I've got the annual plan 1920
The budget.
under
in-
transport.
Yeah, the budget was 1.026 million in the 1920 annual plan.
Yeah. It's just 17th line.
That's right, the 1026,
1.026 million.
Okay. Secondly, I find the agenda item quite interesting. It's got approved the project as tendered. Then it says disadvantages, and the disadvantage of not doing it, it could result in a lower price. Would that be correct?
I don't think so. What, you're talking about the $12 billion announcement yesterday? You think we might get some of that?
We can only look at an agenda that's been prepared, and that's what it says.
That might be a typo, I think, Dennis. Yes, should be high. Well picked up. All right, thank you very much, Dennis. Quite a clear resolution there, that we accept this tender from Chemex. Do I have a mover? Moved Councillor Taylor, seconded by Councillor Boddy. All those in favour, please say aye. Those against? Carried. 5.3, Taupo water and wastewater pipe renewals 2020 and 21. Good afternoon. Good afternoon, Mike. Yeah.
Cool. Can you hear me?
Thank you.
Cool.
Thank you, Mike. Good to have you here.
Yeah, so I'm just filling in for Tom today. He's on leave, that's why his name's on top of the paper and I'm sitting here. So this item is to award contract for water and wastewater pipe renewals for over a 2-year period to Waitāhi Contractors Limited. It's a fairly big contract. The attachment shows the pipelines and locations, and part of this is to bring forward $500,000 from the 2021-22 on the water renewal side, to cover the costs of the contract. And I guess the reason for that is the water renewals budget is sort of generically set at $2 million a year, and we've gone out for quite a big package of work here to try and take advantage of, we'll try and get some lower prices coming through and attract more contractors, and that seems to be what's happened. We've got quite a few tenders for this contract, and the prices have come back pretty good as well, so happy to take any questions.
Yep, good work, Mike. Waitāhi done work for us before?
No, not for us, but they've quite a big contractor.
Yes.
Out
Yeah,
of,
certainly seen their vehicles around, so whether they're doing private work, I'm not too sure. They had a bit to do with the upgrade of the marina anyway, but Councillor Mack.
So I'm quite new to this. When you take money from a budget from another, like next year or the year after, obviously the 0.5 million, what happens when you get to next year? Are you getting to a point next year where you could have taken quite a bit of that? What happens? Do we then just have to take it from the year after that as well?
Well, I guess this contract is a 2-year. We're looking at it for a 2-year package of work, and the prices come in. It's basically coming at 2.25 years worth of work, you know, from a pricing point of view, rather than fitting into the 2-year window nicely. So yes, we would have to.
So like, did we start this year at zero, basically? Like we had 2 million to spend? Or
it's never zero. Sometimes you're pulling forward stuff slightly. Sometimes you've got a little bit left over, and
I'm just thinking
it's just
like
the packages of work aren't allocated in advance, so it's pretty hard to line things up exactly with the calendar year.
So if he's pinching it from next year, hopefully next year we underspend. Yeah.
So sorry, through the chair, what we look at is for renewals in particular, which this is we're looking at the 10-year as an entire package, so it's 10 years. It's decided for budgeting purposes that it's probably best to do 2 million every year, so it's a $20 million package. This is probably the start of many contracts that will be coming through to you, especially in the new LTP, to make sure that we can deliver. So we're going to be bundling them up to much larger contracts, make it much more attractive to the market, and therefore we can actually deliver a higher percentage of what we have been delivering in the past by doing this type of stuff. So it's the start of that. So we look at it as over that full 10 years. So we're just doing this work, and in fact we're advancing some of that work is probably the best way to put it, rather than losing out in the year that we haven't got their money. So.
And you know, I guess the alternative would be to trim back this package of work, but there are good reasons for trying to tackle all this in one package now. Some of the areas have had reoccurring faults, or there's some road renewals which we want to get in advance of, and so that's I guess the rationale for developing the package that you see.
Very good. Thank you, Mike. Thank you for your item today. It's certainly good to see a good amount of tenderers, this item and the previous item. You know, we've been for a stage where there's been only one or two, so good to see a few more players in the market. All right,
Could I just raise a question following what Mr. Mack has said? I've had some correspondence with Mr. Manhattan, who's probably getting sick and tired of us. This is coming from renewals, and I'm struggling to be able to follow the renewals and amounts that get taken out to do certain projects. We have we have capex, and we have further funding for various things, and then there's the renewals, but they're not broken down. And while it might be difficult, if we look at one of our cost centres, I think it's a page and a half of what we do under that particular item, but it's renewals that concern me. There's 2 million comes out here, 2 million goes back in there, and I'm not sure how we overcome that, but I believe as a council I have the responsibility to try and follow the tracking of all the finances, and sometimes I don't do it overly well, but it's the renewals that have always concerned me.
Yep, I'm sure any of our staff or Mr. Manhattan will be available at any time to have a meeting with you and just get a further
The meeting through
clarification.
correspondence, but I'd like to see it as one of the parts of the agenda items.
All right.
So we've got 3 million, 4 million on renewals in a certain section, and
Cool. All right. Okay. Thank you very much, Michael. Appreciate that. And there's a suggested recommendation there that we get on with this important work. Moved by Councillor Park, seconded by Councillor Williamson. All those in favour, please say aye. It's against? Carried. Thanks, Mike. 5.4, licence to occupy disc down at Spa Thermal Park, disc golf. And I think we've had an email from Councillor Williamson. This would normally go to the Fred committee, but because that doesn't...
Yeah, so through
Sorry,
the chair,
it's a-
yeah, so
it's a
this
new
would have,
committee, sorry.
in the old days, this would have gone through the free committee, but it's going through the,
No. Taupo reserves.
no, in the olden days, I said.
In the olden
days, as of last year, yeah. But this would now go through the Taupo reserves, but it's in light of trying to get this operation up and running prior to the first meeting of that committee. It was suggested that we come through full council for it.
Okay.
The applicant is very keen to get it through, and he's looking at some national competition. So as soon as he gets approval, he'll be wanting to move forward and do this work. It's not terribly clear when rereading the report, but the lease is for 9 holes and 18 holes, so all up around 27 holes of work he wants to do. And the peppercorn rental is common with what we did at Mangakino, and I think also the little bike park area up in Spa Park is also a peppercorn rental, so it's in line with what we've done for other leases.
Okay. All right. Questions? Councillor Park.
Actually, Kevin, you might have already answered this. I'm all for vibrancy and adding activity and activation and whatnot, but I just, with Mr. Keane, I mean, it's a non-charge event, and he wants a lease for 5 years, and I suppose it's through the competitions that he'll earn some sort of income. I'm just wondering how you keep Mr. Keane motivated to maintain and look after this for 5 years when there doesn't seem to be any economic benefit to him personally.
Yeah, so I think the best we can do in that space is it would be conditions of the lease, making sure that lease would be null and void if it wasn't, but there'd be some requirements there to take away the stuff if he was not to continue on the lease.
Sorry. Councillor Leonard.
I guess my only concern is just around, this is one of the only places that people can exercise their dogs off lead, and you're potentially introducing a number of children into the area, and I see that as potentially being quite a hazard, combining the two activities, just something to consider.
Yep, so thank you for that. It was something that we approached Nathan, who wrote the report, and it was something he considered, but it's a relatively low use part of the reserve, and these conflicts would be few and far in between, he thought. So that was his justification for bringing it forward.
So, sorry, just in that, so we had an officer clarified that, like, obviously step the site out, and just to make sure that's correct?
So Nathan's been up on site, yes.
Yeah, okay, cool. Councillor Mack?
I don't know the park, but obviously it's a big area. Do we maintain it? Like, do we mow it and all the rest of it?
Absolutely,
So
yes.
at the moment, because we don't have many activities on it, it doesn't matter when we mow it, even though we have a program. Would he expect us to mow it more, or?
It's quite a reasonably high level of service in that park anyway, so it wouldn't, I don't expect it to be any more. No.
So no more cost to us to do this?
Not that I'm aware of, no.
Councillor Taylor?
I see the infrastructure installs at the applicant's cost. I couldn't find where it talked about maintenance ongoing. Where's that fall?
So that'll be falling on the applicant as well.
As well.
Yes.
Cool.
And that'll be registered in the lease.
Yes.
Councillor Boddy?
Just to follow on Councillor Leonard's comment, I think the councillor's right. I mean, if we take the grandchildren down there, we use the Flying Fox. There's 2 sites on this where they could be disadvantaged. There's also where the kids ride their bikes over the hills, which is very well used this summer. I'm just wondering if it was cut down to less than the 28, whether it would fit in, because there's a number of unanswered questions, and Councillor Taylor's raised maintenance as one. We haven't seen what that contract is, and I'm just wondering whether we need to get that before us before we say yay or nay.
So through the chair, it is common that you allow us to write the lease conditions to cover those off, but if you want to vary that, that's up to you, but that's not been the case in the past.
Mr. Chairman, I think we have a few instances where that lease has come before us to yay or nay it, and I think in this particular case, particularly where it is, and it's not down where you walk down to the stream for a hot pool, that we need to find something out about the maintenance. There's a whole lot of things that we've already mentioned before we actually agree to this.
I think through you, Mr. Chairman, I think you've raised the questions, and then those questions were raised previously, and the answer was that they are included in the standard lease, and they are. So all of our leases have those requirements. So that is your answers. Is that yes, the maintenance is at the applicant who is responsible for that. If the business goes under, then the applicant needs to remove those infrastructure assets. So those are your answers.
Is there a review period? Do they have at least for 5 years, as you say, but after a year or 2 years, is it reviewed?
We can certainly put that in the lease.
I would certainly be one of my suggestions. That fantastic activity, and I'm out at Mangakino. It's a great draw card. So I would be in support of, but perhaps a review period should be allocated somewhere, just to make sure.
Yes, through the chair, we'll make sure that is in the lease. Yes.
Cool. All right. Any other questions or queries?
Through the chair.
Yes, Councillor Williamson.
You're notwithstanding Councillor Leonard's very good point about perhaps conflict of users, and notwithstanding that, I think there is something in to say they have to be considerate of that, but perhaps that could be, I'm not sure that would be part of a standard condition of the lease, but maybe it's something that could be monitored initially as part of the activity if it is set up and given the authority to go ahead.
Yep, is that possible, Kevin?
Through the chair, I think Nathan's already talking to the applicant, and he's very clear, like an induction onto the course for any tournaments or any things that he does, and it clearly articulates around the conflict and other uses.
Yep. Okay. Has anyone ever played this, Karen? Is it a softball or what is it? It's
Frisbee.
Perfect.
They're expensive frisbees, though, but yeah, and they have several of them. So.
And if they collide with your head, would there be an issue there?
Depends how hard you throw it.
So we did. So just for council's information, we did. The Mangakino committee representative group approved one of these courses for Mangakino probably about 2 years ago, and that's in place and gets relatively good use, and we aren't aware of any issues that have come from that.
Through the chair, I've raised the interesting question, obviously, around the having been brought to full council. There's, I suppose, given the responsibilities around the various areas in town, that is a Taupo Roads and Reserves, would have been Taupo Roads and Reserves Committee in terms of voting, in terms of whether it's approved or not, but at this, I imagine at this table will be a full council decision whether it goes here or not.
Yep, that's good. All right, Councillor Park. Yeah, happy to.
I just, do we have, sorry, probably I'll get to the CEO through the chair, sorry. I see this sort of set up in Taupo very different to how it is set up in Mangakino, given what's available in Taupo activity-wise versus Mangakino, and I fully support it in Mangakino. I'm just worried about, I mean, it's a non-charge, so it's not a commercial business, but is this something that should go out for expressions of interest for transparency? I'm just worried about how it's going to be accepted publicly if Mr. King's used his initiative and he's come to us, but I'm just feeling a little bit uncomfortable about an activity run by a private resident, but considering the space and infrastructure of it.
So it's totally up to you in terms of whether you approve or not, or what process you want to wrap around it. What I would say though is that what this applicant has done is basically seen an opportunity for something that he wishes to progress. He's had a conversation and seen and noticed that fits within the reserve management plan which you've approved for the site, so it's consistent with your policy. So in terms of that, you therefore don't need to go out for an expression of interest, quite different to say if you were disposing of a site or something like that. There's nothing that would require you to do that. It would be unusual for you to do that. You wouldn't normally do that. The only time I can think of would be the Lake Terrace sites, which obviously are under a high level of demand for that summer period, where we do go out and say, give us what you want, and then we sort of pick and choose from there. All of our other sites, we pretty much respond to activities as they come in. I'll take the dreaded fly line as an example. We didn't go out for an expression of interest for that. They came to us, and then we assessed it at that time.
Okay.
Going along, Councillor Parker, I know I'm not going to speak for what she's saying, but I think I'm of the same opinion. There's no money in this, which is fine. I think that's great. And reading it, it says that he's going to go for sponsorship for the hoops, etc. But I see it going backwards very quickly. If, let's say, the hoops get damaged in a public area, who's going to replace them? Like, you're not going to go back to your sponsors all the time and say, oh, I need a new hoop. And I'm just concerned it's a big area, and can he maintain it? I don't know this person either. Do we know anything about the person?
Okay, I think Kevin, the questions here. Obviously, the maintenance side will be covered in the lease, correct?
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
Yes.
And as far as knowing the person, I'm not too sure, but we need to encourage anyone with ideas like this to come forward. This will be, this could possibly be a fantastic addition for families or individuals or whatever. But let's have that review clause in there.
Yep, absolutely.
And then if it's after a year or it's a dead duck or whatever it is, so we'll get someone's admitted to hospital with a knock on the head. Probably help a few people. No, anyway, I think we need to be a bit positive about this and move forward. But I appreciate the concerns. We don't regularly ask for expressions of interest on this piece of land. So, I would certainly suggest let's go ahead. But we've taken the concerns. Kevin's obviously taken the concerns on today, and that will be registered in the lease. So,
And that, sorry, through you, Mr. Chairman, and that is also for how long is it in the first year we review it? How often do the reviews take place?
Well,
based on?
Up to you guys here today. Kevin suggested 2 years earlier. If we want to bring that forward to a year, why not? Yeah, okay.
Year review, yes.
All right. Do you want that registered anywhere here, Kevin, or you've got note of that?
No, through the chair, I think that recommendation stands there, and I'll just take that year review and the maintenance things in hand. Yep.
Okay.
Through the chair, I was just wondering whether it's possible doing something similar to like with the e-scooters. You have a trial. I know he's got to go to the expense of putting infrastructure in and stuff, but
the review period will cover that. I think, Councillor Williamson. He won't. There's concrete pads and all that sort of thing. It's quite a, it's quite a reasonable investment on, sponsorship will cover it. But I think if we're covered with that review period, is like a trial, I suppose.
Yeah.
In disguise. All right. Do I have a mover, please? Councillor Taylor, thank you very much. Seconded by Councillor Williamson. All those in favour, please say aye. Is against? Carried. You're against. You're against. Councillor Westman, sorry. Did you want to talk against? Or? Anyway, too late. Sorry. Yeah. Very good. Okay, 5.5. We have got a request from Taupo Sale Yards Limited for a new lease. And we have Mr. John Pendergrass.
sale yards.
Nice to see you, John. Thank you very much. And you've got some fellow farmers in the background there too.
We have fellow
Why are they hiding?
because there's only 3 seats.
Okay, good afternoon, John, and welcome, Peter. And not too sure who the other chap
Murray.
is, but nice to have you here. Right, request for the extension. Ella Howie's our legal representative today, so welcome, Ella. And Dennis.
Thank you, Your Worship and Councillors. So I'll just briefly introduce the item, and then perhaps if you have any questions, I'll answer them, or Peter. Oh, sorry, John will be able to answer them. He also has a brief.
Actually, John, sorry, you requested some speaking rights anyway, so we'll get to you in a minute. So,
Cool.
Ella, you go ahead if there's any.
So this report seeks your consideration of a request from the Taupo sale yards for a new lease for a term of 10 plus 10 years. So the sale yards have an existing lease with council that expires at the end of 2021, and they're seeking a new lease as they wish to invest in upgrading improvements on the land. The report recommends that a new lease is granted for the term requested of 10 plus 10 years, with market rent reviews every 5 years, with annual lease fees of $12,000 plus GST per annum. It is recommended that the new lease commence at the same time as the existing lease is surrendered. So I'll just highlight a few points. So myself and Dennis Lewis carried out a site inspection in December last year, and the grounds and improvements of the land were found to be in tidy condition and good for their age. So the Taupo sale yards have been good tenants, and there are no outstanding breaches of the lease conditions. We understand that the sale yards is a valued rural community facility. The annual lease fees that are recommended are in accordance with a recent rental recommendation obtained. And finally, should council agree to grant a new lease, it is also recommended that it seek to secure a new sublease for its truck and washdown facility.
Very good. Okay, thanks, Ella. I'm just looking at the resolution there. Oranui Street. Is that right? Should be road, yeah. Sorry, I've got to be shifted into town. Anyway, I should have picked that up last night. Sorry, when I read it. Anyway, thank you, Ella. Have we got any queries of Ella just at this stage of the proceedings? No. Okay, John.
Thank you. We take exception to the price. The valuer has valued it, saying that the range for valuations could be anywhere between $1,000 a hectare down to $450 a hectare. Now, $1,000 a hectare is South Waikato maize country, down to 450 hectares. I have 2 other examples here, $373 a hectare, fully fenced, fully watered, 41 hectares, and they pay no rates, and it's 5 minutes from the sale yards. That's 373. We also have another $380 a hectare, and it's surrounding the sale yard, so it's right on our doorstep at $380 a hectare. So the valuer's valuation is way out of line. I can personally know of a lease that's on much better land, all fenced and water provided, just 12 minutes from the sale yards, and that's at $450 a hectare. And that's all going concern, and that price is fixed for 10 years. The sale yard's land is thin topsoil over raw pumice, so fertility-wise does not compare to that 450 a hectare property 12 minutes away. So we are asking for a lease amount of $400 a hectare, fixed for 10 years, to give us security for planning and for costs. The present lease is $225 a hectare, and so we appreciate that it is time for an increase. Although we are a commercial entity, all our income is used for the community sale yards. At $400 a hectare, it is a 60% increase over our present lease. If our costs increase, it has to come out of yard maintenance. All our money goes back into yard maintenance and repairs. And we do not want to start closing down sections of the yards for health and safety reasons. So thank you for this opportunity to give you this information. And if there's any questions from anybody, I'm willing to try and handle them.
Thank you very much, John. Clear and concise. I guess a question to Ella. Is it normal in this situation for the applicant to get a registered valuation as well? Oh, get a valuation, not a registered valuation, a valuation on the lease?
That can be an option. If they disagree with the valuation,
Yeah.
they can obtain their own valuation.
Yeah,
And then if there's still disagreement, it's an option for the valuers to meet and agree on a valuation, or for some negotiations to happen.
Right.
Keeping in mind that the valuation we obtained, it was noted that there was limited comparable lease sites, so it's a recommendation rather than a valuation.
Yeah.
Those are the words of our valuer, but it is the advice of the valuer that that's what
yeah,
is recommended.
okay, cool. Yeah, so Councillor Leonard?
Just a few points that I'd like to put consideration to, just backing along the lines of what John's saying, is the grounds are also used by a pony club, so increasing the costs, I imagine, would have an impact on another community group. I just think it's worth noting, and I know historically this has been the case, and I haven't known it to be any different, is that all the catering is given to community organisations. Historically it's been Wairakei Primary School. I understand at the moment it's hospice that are...
And all the profits from the sale day catering is going back to hospice.
Yeah. I think we need to take this example from a community perspective. So historically we've had pubs and rural schools and things like that that rural people have been able to gather at to enhance their sense of community. And to be fair, at the moment the sale yards are one of the only places that are left available for rural people to develop that sense of community. The other thing is, with the change of land use within our district, is it really helps to bridge the gap between lifestyle farmers and larger holdings. They all come together for common purpose. And also looking from a green perspective, is that part of the sale yards and the sales that take place is that there's selling of second-hand sundry equipment, which actually enables a lot of recycling within the rural sector that wouldn't actually be open to anyone under other circumstances if we didn't have our sale yards operating. So they're just some things that I'd like people to consider when they consider that.
Cool, thank you, Councillor Leonard. Councillor Taylor?
So more by way of comment than a question for John. When I read through this, the only question mark I had in my mind was the cost of the lease and what is a significant increase on what it has been. And I preface that by saying this is a not-for-profit, which the links, and I fully support what Councillor Leonard has just said. People who volunteer their time, although you do employ people, is that right, John?
For major constructions we do, all the directors are volunteers, and all the small maintenance items are all done by volunteers, and the major we let out to local contractors.
Yes, so although it's a commercial entity in some respects, all of the income is channeled back into the community or into the facility which council benefits from. And I note that the land was acquired from the Crown for the purpose of a sale yard many moons ago. So I, for one, are fully in support of a review of the proposed increase downwards in respect of the lease.
Sure. Councillor Mack?
I suppose the only reason we're here is because the valuer has put that value on it, which I suppose we have to question why, if, as you're saying, around you the land is nowhere near this sort of figure. So as a valuer, he's not actually valuing it, he's just, as he said, it's a figure he's come up with. If it's revalued by another company, let's just say, would you assume it wouldn't come up anywhere near this?
It's exactly because I've just given 3 examples that I know of at those prices, and in his valuation report he used the word global. The global pricing for leasing. So his global pricing is quite wide ranging. So he's taken a figure of South Waikato land of $1,000 and taken down to $450 a hectare and taken a piece in the middle. In the middle between South Waikato and Taupo is T-Row, not Taupo. Taupo's right at the bottom end. We're on raw pumice compared to T-Row. And so he hasn't actually shifted the parameters right down. And in his report, he stated that there were no other leases comparable, and yet I've got 3 right in front of me.
He's probably talking with a facility. Yeah. He's probably talking about with a facility on it. similar operations, I would say. Yeah.
We're talking about a rural farming lease. He's
Right.
state farming lease.
Stated on that, okay.
Stated farming lease, and he couldn't, he didn't.
Sure. So, John, you're suggesting how much a hectare are you prepared to pay?
$400, which is a 60% increase over our present rate.
And
So
just
you're
so
offering $400 per hectare today? So how much is that, Ella?
just through the chair, we've just $6,473.
Through the chair.
Yep.
There is a telling, sentence there, the rental is a recommendation rather than valuation. So obviously, in fairness, we should be looking at, discussing a different value,
Yeah.
given the advice and discussion from John.
Would it be possible to ask, John, your income stream from the Pony Club lease, is it much?
$67 per 6 months.
I suspected that'd be very good.
We've just charged them a nominal fee to help with the maintenance of the mowing and the tidying up of the grounds.
Yeah.
And the Western Ridings are there as well, and they pay next to less than that.
Okay.
And so our main income is from 1% of all stock sales. That's our main income. And the stock sales, as you appreciate, last month in January we were expecting $4,000 from the sale, and the sale was cancelled. And so our income is solely based on income from stock sales.
So it's not an increasing scenario of stock numbers.
Not for us.
No.
Not for us.
Councillor Westerman.
I think a couple of the key points, it is a community operation out there. The wording in our report talks about a market rent review, and that is not what we're talking about today. So I would recommend that we accept the proposal in front of us if we can do that.
Sure.
Ben, we do have the right for 5-year review, so we can do that.
Excuse me, emergency. All right. Okay. Well, that suggested of the amended the figure of the resolution down from 12,000 to 6,473, as pleaded by our wonderful friend here today. I just endorse all the comments. The sale yards is a meeting point. It's more of a social place as well, not only transacting business, but it's so important for the rural community. And I'm not sure if you're familiar, John, we have set up a special rural committee, Taupo East Committee, that will attend to these sort of matters or day-to-day matters for you out there. So just as initial support for you, chaired by Councillor Leonard. So sorry I've diverted, but anyway, the rest of the councillors, are you happy to move that amended resolution? Councillor Westerman has moved. Yep, seconded by Councillor Boddy. Could I, just before I put the vote, Ella, any final summing up?
No further comments.
No further. Dennis, transportation in and out, it's all good? Yep, good. Just checking. You didn't ask for a sealed road, John, see, you should have got it. No, you're right. Very good. The truck washer's working well? Yeah, great.
Thank you.
Great. All right, been moved by Councillor Westman, seconded by Councillor Boddy, that rental figure will be 6,473 plus GST per annum. And
Sorry, just through the chair.
number 2 is the same.
Do we leave the word market rent review in there? Because I just don't know if market should be there. If the mover and seconder are happy with that.
Yep. Remove that. Okay, all those in favour, please say aye. Those against? Carried. Thank you very much. Cool. 5.6, adoption of the 2019-22 triennial agreements with regional councils. Good afternoon. How are you? Yeah.
Oh.
Sorry, your first name? Sorry?
Tammy.
Tammy.
Yes.
Oh, nice to meet you, Tammy.
Nice to meet you.
Your first time before us, I believe?
Oh, yes, it is.
Yeah, good.
I have
good.
support.
Thank you for bringing afternoon tea. No, that's
Sure,
all right.
around the back.
Yeah.
Uh,
Very good. The floor is yours. Thank you.
Thank you. The purpose of this report today is to ask for Council to adopt the Regional Council Triennial Agreements for 2019-2022. So Taupo District falls within 4 regional councils, and according to the Local Government Act, we are required to sign a triennial agreement before the 1st of March in the year following an election, and so this is bringing that to you and asking that you will consider and adopt those triennial agreements. Of the 4 councils that we are part of, 1 council agreement is not here because it is not ready. They are planning to have a meeting mid-February, so we'll probably bring that to you at the February meeting. And so our recommendation is that Council adopts the triennial agreements for the Waikato region as a primary signatory, as well as the Bay of Plenty region, and adopt the Horizons region triennial agreement as a non-primary signatory. These agreements are pretty much standard. They're the same as what was passed around for the 2016-2019, with no major deviations beyond the addition of a climate change MOU to the Horizons, but then Taupo is not a signatory to that MOU as well.
Cool. Thank you so much, Tommy. Fairly mechanical item, but good to have you here today, and thank you for the clear and concise agenda item. All right. Any questions of Tammy or Nick? No, all pretty straightforward. So suggested recommendation there. If I could have a move. Thanks, Councillor Taylor. Seconded by Councillor Park. All those in favour, please say aye. Those against? Carried. Thanks, Tammy. Good to see you. Thanks, Nick. All right. Right, 5.7. A very topical, topical subject at the moment, Jess. Have you found a vaccine?
Not with the monkeys in my backyard.
No, right. All right, so this is regarding the mayoral delegation to China and Japan, May 2020, and it's probably be fair to say this was written prior to recent activity. So the floor is yours, Jess.
So I'll take the paper as read,
Yep.
but I just wanted to update you on some information that I've had through this morning from our team that look after all of our Asian activity, essentially. So Simon Appleton runs a company called Eastern Bridge. He's a contractor.
Sorry, Jess, I'm going to interrupt. Ella, sorry, I just realised that she will... Come here, please. Come here. You're not getting out. It just reminded me of your last possible meeting in front of us as well, yeah.
Before you go make a new citizen.
Yeah, so all the very best. I believe it's due on February the 22nd, 3rd. Yeah, so it'll be February the 22nd. And I can see it's a boy, so that's wonderful news. Because you're wearing blue as well. But hey, Ella, all the very best, and it's so exciting times for you guys. So I'm sure it'll go well, and we look forward to meeting our newest person in our community, potential ratepayer in the future. All the best. Thanks. Sorry, Jess.
No, that's okay. That's okay.
Yeah.
Impending babies are awesome.
Yeah.
Not mine, though. No. No spoiler alert there. Oh, it's right. Okay, right. So Simon, I was in touch with Simon this morning, and he's got teams on the ground in China at the moment, for some kind of, I guess, clarity of purpose of where Hubei is. Hubei is in central China, which is where Wuhan is. Shaoxing and Suzhou, who are our 2 sister and friendship cities, are approximately a 6.5-hour flight away. So the distance is quite away. Obviously, that doesn't matter too much when you're talking about a viral infection. His advice would be, obviously, if we were going to China next month, to not go, but to keep a watching brief on it. He said the likelihood, because when the SARS virus outbreak happened 10 or 15 years ago, maybe a little bit more. There wasn't a lot of visibility in mainland China on their provincial government response. Now that we are almost 20 years down the track, they are being held far more accountable to the World Health Organization and to the rest of the world. Their ability to shut things down is not quite what it was. So his advice was to carry on and keep a watching brief, and if things progress negatively, then we could look at it then. So I mean, it's a risk that we would take, but a relatively minor one if things progress as they have been. So with the virus being shut down, but you know, I'm no medical expert, so.
Yeah. The government obviously announced yesterday non-essential travel.
Non-essential travel to China.
Is not.
The
not
expectation. I did had a conversation with a colleague at LGNZ this morning as well, and the expectation is that they are thinking that everything will be shut down by the end of March. So, yeah.
Yeah. It's huge.
It's definitely a consideration.
Yeah. So, do you want to talk to the item? You know, like it's pretty. I think the
Pretty
item's
hefty?
pretty. Well, it's pretty good. You know, like you've covered everything in there.
Yeah.
And you know, I've been thinking about that, and I'm thinking probably would it be advisable just to table the item until next month, just so you give a watching brief.
Potentially.
Give watching briefs.
Yeah.
As to what happens.
I mean,
they're a huge strategic partner of ours. You know, with what we've done with them so far, the investment they have. One of our largest ratepayers being Shanghai Peng Swing, you know, all that sort of thing. So definitely, you know, I'm very supportive of the trip because it does give tangible benefits.
Mm-hmm.
But I think as far as the attendance, you know, rate of people's various health conditions and what have you, and travel, flight times and all that sort of thing, I think the makeup of the delegation to be decided. Yeah. Once that corona virus is, you know, we know where we are.
One way or the other. The other thing we could do, Your Worship, is continue with the paper today and continue to move forward with it, but then just keep a watching brief, so that if we can reserve, we can get, you know, the better deals on flights, etc., as that comes online, and then we can always cancel them at a later date.
Yeah, whatever you suggest. Yeah.
Councillor
Park.
Just through the chair, just because of the upset we caused with Hakone last time, I'd sort of be of the mind of Jess that we continue. There's still a lot of hoops to jump through, like will we be eligible for travel insurance and all those different things. So I think it's almost put it in motion, but proceed with caution, and because there are so many hoops to jump through, and things do take time with visas and all sorts of things. So
have you booked
I'd still continue, but in a very, very risk.
The other point is that we could skip China if the outbreak, if we decided that was too much of a risk and go directly to Japan.
There's about that much gap between the countries. But I just look at Mr. Fox here. So have we booked airfares and bits and pieces now? Would we be covered?
No, I suspect you wouldn't be, Your Worship, but I need to clarify that to be.
So even those early fares would be no. Yeah, no help. So I think we table it to next month at least.
Okay.
But you know, you quietly keep your diplomatic ties up, which is great because they're huge. You know, largest trading partner, all that sort of thing, and you know, some of us who have been lucky enough to go, the hosting of these people is just outstanding. But it has tangible benefits. That's the big thing.
It definitely
Councillor
does.
Westman.
Right, audio on. May's not that far away, and I think if you're looking for 2 nominations for councillors to go, and I'm certainly not available, just putting it out there, but I'm most probably like the other councillors, you'd need a bit of lead-in time, and it'd be handy to know now if you are on the list, so you could just pop that diary note in and keep that time aside without perhaps booking the airfare until you get a little bit further down the track. That would be my recommendation.
Happy to discuss the potential attendees now.
So I've done a sort of a rough itinerary of the trip, and if we attend all 4 of the events, I suppose it was looking at about a 3-week delegation. So it's quite a chunk of time.
Jeez. It's a long time, isn't it?
I'll be in a safe country, the UK, so I'm out.
Safer.
Well, through the chair.
3 weeks.
I was of 2 minds about tabling. I think we should keep pursuing it. I mean, obviously, just like Councillor Parks suggests, there's a lot of work behind the scenes. So you're delaying it a month. It's going to be a very tight time frame. You know, just keep monitoring the situation in China. But I would be for just moving the recommendation forward with provisos around how the situation changes.
All right. Well, let's have a word about that. You know, is anyone happy to commit to 3 weeks? Any of the potential councillors, new councillors, or whatever, people that have uncomplicated home lives? I'm sure there'll be like you, Kim. Just looking at my deputy, 3 weeks is a long time. So yeah, like obviously I'd happy to front the delegation, but I'd certainly have to talk to my advisors. So, but perhaps what have you allocated for councillors? How many?
So yourself and 2 additional
And
councillors.
2. Okay. Well, who's keen? Anyone keen?
Through the chair, subject to husband approval, and whatever happens, it's my portfolio area, so.
Have you been before, Anna?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Has anyone not been before that wants to go? Yeah. Okay. Depending on time.
So the timing, at the moment, the dates are looking at are departing New Zealand on the 16th of May and back at on approximate around the 5th of June. Yeah. So it's just a very draft itinerary at this stage, but with internal travel and the amount of time that we need to be on the ground in China and having a couple of rest days in there because they'll be required. That's the length of time. So fly into Shanghai and then fly back to New Zealand via Tokyo.
Through the chair, that rules me out at a wedding in the Rarotonga on June the 2nd.
Oh, steady boy. There's direct flights from Rarotonga to Beijing. Anna, so Kylie, Anna, Kevin. Anyone else keen?
I've been, so it's, I want to raise some issues in that regard. So,
Yeah. Kathy? Yeah. Yeah. Bigger pardon, sorry? Did you say there's an age limit?
Just comment through the chair.
Yes.
So I appreciate advancing this now, but if the government have issued a non-essential travel illustration, and we have the New Zealand and Australian government working together to bring people back through the military, I just think we need to be really careful that we are not out of step with what's happening internationally in pushing this forward, and we could be looked at externally being a little bit naive or foolish. We need to be quite discreet about, we'll do the planning, but let's not be foolish about it. I'm not suggesting we would be, but I just think we need to be careful what subliminal messages we're sending by advancing this. Yeah.
So we're not the only council that's been invited to go over to Chengdu for the Mayoral Forum as well. So my conversation with my LGNZ colleague this morning was she was going to find out what the feeling generally was from other councils as well about even that particular piece of work moving forward. So we're all on the same page.
I'll take heed of Councillor Taylor's suggestion here because I don't want the headline saying Taupo Council forges ahead with plans.
Absolutely.
I can just see it
Chair,
now.
I can just see the conversation between you and the head of Foreign Affairs and Trade, and I won't be there for that conversation.
Absolutely.
I think it just, if you are going to pencil it in, it just maybe needs to have a rider on the end of number 2, subject to.
I think my initial feeling was to table it and I'd still consider that. February meeting's not far away. We might have an update by then. But yeah, I realise you appreciate time's tight. You keep talking to everyone you need to talk to. Is that possible, Tina, just to table it? Yeah. Cool. Yes. Yeah. Mainly cost factor. Just makes sense while you're there. Drop down to what's the flight time from China to Japan? 2 hours.
Ish. Yep.
Ish. Yeah.
Yep.
So it just makes sense. If we could look at a separate item later. If the China thing's an absolute no go, we have we've fixed the Japanese situation because there hasn't been any contact there for a number of years. So we could look at that as a separate item. But yeah, sure. Okay, so we'll just table it. Thank you, Jess. Yes?
Just raise the point in regards to this, in regards to public perception. You mentioned at the start, Your Worship, in regards of the economic benefit. We sent a trade delegation in 2016. You mentioned one particular. I'm wondering whether that's, if we could quantify the economic benefit to the district as to why you go to these things. I notice here that 1,000 net worth tourists, whether that's been completed or not, but I think that's the first part. I know when I came back and I got the phone calls about wasting money, and I was able to explain the sorts of persons we met that had contacts and even businesses in New Zealand was quite valuable. But it's the what we get back as a district from going on these particular trips. And I know it's only what's it, 20 grand, and that's probably for airfares, but I think that's quite important. Sell it before we go public.
Well, I think Jess has alluded to quite a number of those just in this agenda item. If you want a bit more detail on that, John, happy to give you offline.
If you have to put a press release out, you can go boom, 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 here's the dollar quantification.
It's hard to put an actual quantifiable dollar on it, but when you've got, one of our, largest ratepayers as a Chinese company, I would suggest that would be a reasonable thing. But we're happy to certainly put some more detail around. Jess will have that at her fingertips, no doubt.
Just as an example, just recently we've confirmed 30 students that are coming over from Shashing at Taupo Nuiatia, and on average those families will spend $3,500 per child in district. So just for one exchange.
And I think talking to James Yu, the Chinese liaison person at Wairaki Resort, he was up to about 972 of those 1,000 people the last time I was talking to him. So definitely, I was a bit, always when I first came into office, I was sceptical about these things. They look like junkets to me, but this certainly the Chinese situation has been tangible. It's been physical restaurant in town, all that sort of thing. So,
and through the chair, that educational opportunity is a direct outcome of the 2018 trip where we took deputy principal as part of the delegation from Nui.
Yes.
Yeah. So when do they come? Sorry, Jess, the 30.
They're coming this month.
They won't come, eh?
Well, we'll see.
Yeah.
Yeah, through the chair, obviously these arrangements are puts often a hard sell to the community. Obviously, even going back to the 90s, where there was a relationship with the Susho, with the previous mayor. So it's nothing new, but as the comment has been discontinued, but depending on priorities I definitely support them.
I see why Tomo cancelled everything, because they just simply haven't got the resources to do it. And so, there's different views around the country, but every time I've met with the minister, he's encouraged that communication and dialogue with those international countries.
It's a slow burn as well, I think.
Yeah. And also we cannot forget New Caledonia, where we get tangible benefits out of i.e. exchange of Taupo Intermediate and all that sort of thing. I'm well aware that we have not been up there for at least 6 years, so I'm sure we will need to address that shortly, Jess.
Yes, I'm already in touch with my
great.
counterpart over there, so.
Yep.
Yeah.
Cool. Very good. All right, thank you, Jess. Sorry about that. You look a bit deflated, but...
Oh, no, I'm not deflated. Just, I'll see you next month.
I think just heed some advice here that we just table this at the moment.
Yep.
But we've got an indication of who sort of wants to go anyway, which is great.
Yep.
Yeah.
For sure. All right, I'll see you.
Very good.
See you next
Thank
month.
you very much. Right, 5.8. Adoption of report on dog control policies and practices. Mr. Nigel McCaddy is our legal representative, and Mr. Ross McDonald, compliance manager.
Compliance team leader, Mr. McDonald. So I was just going to
yeah.
introduce them, but you've done it for me. So Ross is just going to present the report that we have to do annually, and maybe just point out some highlights for the
Ross.
council.
Thank you. Just press your button on there, Ross.
Yeah, good afternoon, Your Worship and Councillors. So just here that to request that Council adopts the Section 10A report, which is a report that goes to the Local Government Secretary or Secretary for Local Government, and that's in accordance with the Dog Control Act 1996. I assume the report can be taken as read. Excuse me, it's not a virus. So there's a table of figures in there, and I'm happy to take any questions. I'll do my best to answer them. If I can't provide you with an answer, I'll go away and get that for you.
Any questions of Ross? Councillor Mack? Oh, sorry, Councillor Mack.
So this is just on the control of the dogs, yeah? Not anything to do with the financial, how we set fees, etc.?
Yeah, that's correct. So it's just on basically what we've been doing over the year, mainly do with registration and the amount of complaints, and it also covers dangerous and menacing dogs and a few other things.
Because obviously down Turangi Way, you're probably aware that dogs are out there all the time. It's not your fault, and I know we've got a policy about it. My thing about it would be is that how harsh are we on the people that actually just don't care? Like, I know there's a policy on it, and you pick the dog up and all the rest of it, but if you're picking the dog up more than once or twice, is there a policy that we can just take it?
Yeah, absolutely. So our thing is basically is gaining compliance through educating people and using a bit of compassion in the first instance. However, the recidivists, those dogs will be impounded. So if it's the first time we've picked it up, generally our officers will take it back. If we can get to the owner and give them some education. If it's happened 2 or 3 times, then that dog will definitely go to the pound, and that way we get to deal with it.
So a question to you then, how do you feel it works? Like this policy for you, do you think it's good? Or do you
absolutely.
Think it can be tweaked?
100%. I think it's a lot better than in the past. It was generally a dog went straight to the pound. That provides its own set of problems with cross-contamination of viruses and whatnot. Obviously it costs quite a bit. I haven't got the exact figure, but it costs a lot more to take a dog to the pound. If it's not necessary to do that, then get a dog back to its owner, and then we can actually provide some education and see what the circumstances of why that dog was out roaming in the first place.
Councillor Boddy?
Not to do with wandering dogs. I've been on the Fred Committee for 6 years, and I get a little bit infuriated with the phone calls we receive in regards of non-compliance of keeping dogs on the leash. We have a reserve up from us, and a number of outsiders that don't live in the exact area come up, let their dogs go. We had an instance at 2 Mile Bay a couple of days ago where there were 3 unrestrained dogs, and I said to one of the owners, they must be on a leash, and her response was, well, they're not annoying you, are they? And I said, no, read the sign, it says dogs on leashes. I would like to see a few prosecutions. Don't give them a warning. It's pretty clear when you go to the beach there's a sign. And the other question is, why is Whakaaro, that little harbour bit there, no dogs all year round? Bigger Keisha Bay has no dogs all year round. The others have dogs on leashes. Others have between, is it sometime in December to the end of April, the end of March, no dogs on the beach. They're continually being breached. 4 Mile Bay is bad at the moment with big dogs, particularly when people come home from work, take them out, let them go, you know what they do. I know in here you've got 500 and something, but I think we need to get harder because, quite frankly, the general public's getting a little bit peeved off with dogs that aren't restrained when the notices say they should be.
Okay. Yep, fair points. I would not argue, but my comment would be that we're doing a lot more than what we have done in the past. We continue to increase our patrols on the reserves, and this year we've done that by way of staff working later. Unfortunately, we do have a big district, a lot of reserves, and a small team, but we are certainly doing what we can with the resources we've got.
If someone has an unrestrained dog, does that person get issued?
Not necessarily. Our first point is always going to be the education side. So always, if an officer has responded, or if they've seen someone on the reserve at the time, then they'll be requested to put it on the lead. If they don't put it on lead, two things will happen. If we can get the details of the dog, which is not always the easiest, or someone provides you false details, there could be a warning in the first instance, unless it's happened before, they've got an infringement. If they're refusing to comply at all, then we'll move things forward to possibly a trespass from that reserve.
Just through the chair, the councillor's question about some of those, why do we have some rules and not others? The dog control policy is up for review. It's on the work program for the policy team. So that will be coming before you at some stage when you can address some of those matters.
Cool. All right. Councillor Leonard.
I guess just from attending the community meeting last night, which wasn't directly related to this, but it's really nice to hear the council following the example being set by the police, that sometimes people need a little bit of support. I have an elderly neighbour who is finding life quite difficult, and dog control have been really, really reasonable with her, with that, and supporting her. Being a dog owner in the district for a number of years, it's just nice to see the offer of assistance. I've approached a few people at Acacia Bay, and they just had no awareness that there was no dogs allowed, and pointing at a couple of signs, they were, the people that I approached were reasonable about it. So I guess I'm just saying, appreciate your approach.
Oh, thank you.
It's nice to see the support being given to people that might not find it easy.
Councillor Mack, and then Councillor Taylor, and then Councillor
I've got to say
Williamson.
the same, actually. I've just dealt with dog control because I've got 3 dogs, so I had to go through the process of getting the 3rd one on my property. But what I found interesting was I was allowed 2 without doing this, and when he came out, obviously I complied and all this, but it's like you're allowed to have a dog, and then after the fact you get it registered. I don't understand that if you're new to getting a dog that we don't register it at the time of getting it, or you know what I mean, like they're actually vetted that they're going to get it. Because if they came to you and said, I want to register my dog, you can't say no, can you?
It's always a sticky one with the permits, and that's certainly one thing that we'll be looking into when we do the policy review of how that's brought about. You're absolutely right. It's most cases someone goes and buys a dog and then applies for the permit, so the horse is sort of bolted before, so to speak.
Do you think that's a communication again, though, where we say as a council, you know, we would like you to have a dog, but obviously we'd like to come out and see if you're actually able to have a dog and whether it's going to work for you, especially if you're new to dogs, because then obviously you're talking to them and going, you do realise you've got to have a fence section or whatever. It's like, almost like education, and then they may not actually get a dog because they can't have it, whereas, as you say, anybody can pick a dog up and register it.
Yeah, absolutely. So that would that's some comms, I guess, that we need to start putting out into the community.
Councillor Taylor.
Yeah, just at the risk of preempting any policy review on the dog control policy, having just recently read through it and your report, a couple of comments. I think we've actually struck a reasonably good balance, and through the chair, I'd like to commend Ross, you and your team on the work you're doing. So well done. That's notwithstanding what Councillor Boddy said. There are issues, but then there's issues with people more than the dogs.
Yeah, leave
but
the dog
I'll
go
leave that
and
there.
please.
And I actually think, as a council, and obviously a small conflict, I do have a dog, or my daughter's dog, but the way in which the policy is implemented is actually really helpful.
Williamson.
Thank you. Yes, as the same with Councillor Boddy and Councillor Park on that Fred's Dogs Committee. Cheers.
Very good. Yep, endorse that, Ross. And Nigel, yeah, thank you. Your staff are exceedingly good. they, are very user-friendly, very public-focused and all that sort of thing. So could you thank on our behalf,
Certainly will. Yeah.
Thank them for
I'm
their
very
good
lucky
work.
to have a good team. It makes my job
you've
easy.
got a great team there. Taupo team anyway. Sorry, I'm not familiar with Turangi-Mangakino, but
we're all the same team. So basically, what we just rotate through the district.
Yeah. So no, could you pass on our thanks? All right.
Thank you.
I think talked about that. Nothing further to add, Nigel? No. Okay. Suggested recommendation there that we adopt the dog control report. Moved by Councillor Body, seconded by Councillor Guy. Sorry. It's not Friday night, is it? No. Councillor Guy. All those in favour, please say aye. Those against, carried. Right. Thank you, guys. 5.9. Local declaration of state of emergency or notice of transition into recovery period appointment of designated elected officers. And we have Mr. Brian Fox. Welcome back, Brian.
Thank you, Your Worship. Always hard to follow a dog item, anyway.
Yeah.
So this is a rather mechanical item, Your Worship.
Yep.
A requirement of our Waikato Civil Defence Group plan that we designate who in your absence can make a local declaration in the state of emergency for that transition period into recovery. We're unique, I think, at this point in time in my history here, where we have a deputy chair of the Waikato Civil Defence Group, who's our chair of our committee locally at this council, who can make in situations a regional declaration. So that this item will clarify those who can make that declaration in your absence, and also create a bit of history in that respect as well. We have had 2 declarations in the past for those new councillors, so it does happen on occasions when the emergency services come to us and say we need to have extra powers, etc. So don't think it can't happen, because it actually has happened here. So yeah, I think the item is read, Mr. Chairman.
Thanks.
Answer any questions.
Thanks, Brian. Yeah, just endorse that. Congratulations, Councillor Park, for that deputy chairmanship role there to have that sort of calibre on our council. Was truly appreciated. I know you attend a lot of meetings to the fact, so appreciate that. So just to clarify that, so when there's a regional emergency, you'll have to attend?
Yeah, well, ultimately, the chair Hugh,
Yes.
but then it falls to me.
Falls to you. So that's a real possibility, isn't it?
Yes, I haven't checked out what the extra danger money is yet.
Yes. $1 a K, you can't go wrong. All right.
Through the
okay,
chair.
pretty straightforward. Councillor Body?
Move.
Councillor moved by Councillor Body.
through the chair.
Oh, sorry, Johnny.
Obviously, I have no problem whatsoever with the first alternative being the deputy mayor. That's very appropriate. Just thinking whether you mentioned the comment, the chairperson of the emergency management committee will be involved, obviously, whether it's a second alternative, is that if Christine not available, or obviously I think more if it was a conjointly thing, I would have thought conjoint thing.
Line of command will be mayor, deputy mayor, and then chair. Yeah.
Just through the chair to clarify, the Civil Defence Emergency Management Act is different from the Local Government Act, where under the Local Government Act, when the mayor is not there, the deputy mayor becomes the acting mayor. Under the Civil Defence Emergency Management Act, the designated elected members is sort of different, but I mean it would be logical that if the mayor ended up under a rock or was out of the country or whatever, that the deputy mayor does fulfil that, but it just gives resilience and backup that whoever the emergency management chair, committee chair is also in the loop.
Well, that's fine, I accept that. The deputy will obviously be supportive of that as well, absolutely, naturally.
Brian, Mr. Fox, sorry.
Thank you, Your Worship. Tina will probably help me, but I think one of those statutory declarations in the past actually had to get the deputy mayor to sign off on one of those from memory, so that can occur too.
What year was that?
2009.
Thank you, Brian.
At a guess.
Right. All right. Okay, been moved by Councillor Body, seconded by Councillor Guy. The recommendation up there, which is good. So mayor, deputy mayor, and chair. All those in favour, please say aye. Against, carried. Thank you. Code of conduct, 5.10. adoption of the code of conduct for the 2019 to 2022 triennium.
So you
Mrs.
already,
Jakes.
you already have a code of conduct, and after each election we're to review it. Local Government New Zealand put out some templates, and they changed the template from the existing one that they had for the previous triennium. I've gone through the LGNZ template and had a look at the differences, and you'll have noted on there I've got some suggested inclusions or changes, so really just wanted to work through those with you to make sure either to accept or not, so that this can be adopted. So do you want to go through each of those changes page by page?
Are the changes what sort of basically pretty basic, are they, or? Sorry, yeah, no.
You're happy to?
Yes, Councillor Taylor.
Can I suggest we just do this by exception, otherwise we're going to be here for quite a long time. But my question is around 7.2, the changes. So members are offered information on the condition that it remains confidential. So it is their duty to disclose the information. My suggestion would be that it shouldn't be the case. There will be circumstances where it is appropriate and other circumstances where it's not. And this is an absolute, and I think that's probably going too far.
It's because it's information that you might hold as an elected member, which is subject to Lagoima, Local Government Official Information Act.
Well, just sorry, given just to clear up that scenario.
So it's the second paragraph. Members who are offered information on the condition that it remains confidential will inform the provider of the information that it is their duty to disclose, well, it should be not to disclosure, to disclose the information, and will decline the offer if that duty is likely to be compromised. I mean, I can see situations where confidential conversations are held where it's not going to create a conflict. And I think that is too, what's the word, restrictive. Okay. And if you, so I'm happy to take advice that would be contradictory to Lagoima, but I'd need to be pointed to the chapter and verse that it actually says so, rather than just, no, it contradicts that, yeah? Okay. Like I suggest we just soften and say, yeah, there will be times where absolutely, the information you give me, I have a duty and a responsibility to disclose that. There will be other times where actually, does it really matter?
Well, yeah, it might not matter to you, but perhaps the person, yeah, I don't know, I'd be very, very...
So definitely, and I guess it's a matter of degrees, right? So definitely any written material, be that text messages, emails, letters, etc. Then Lagoima does control that, and it is public unless it's not. And there's specific reasons of why that wouldn't be, but they're quite specific and narrow. So any written material definitely is the case. In fact, I think Tina, Lagoima, you can ask for records in your mind as well, or something similar. So information that is in your mind, recollections. So it's a very have a read of it. It is very, and because you'll have that, and you'll need to be totally aware of it, because conversations between yourselves, particularly if they're written, but even on the phone, they are Lagoimable. So you need to be aware of that. I guess it's a matter of degree. The point that you're raising is really a matter of degrees. We all have conversations all the time, and it's about how you manage those so that it doesn't become an issue.
Can certainly put some words around that to soften that if that is helpful.
We can definitely soften it. I think need to really labour the point that everything that you communicate, you need to be aware that it is public.
No, through the chair, I understand that. I don't have any issue with that. The issue is one where you are obliged to disclose that information. Okay, so proactively, yeah. So it's like I can see if you push this to the nth degree, you're all going to get really sick of me talking about every conversation that I've had. We disclose everything all the time. And I just don't see that being the intent of this. Yeah.
No, and that's certainly not.
No, but that's the way
that's
it's
not
written.
the intent. It's
Yeah, no.
it's around information that might help. Or
and I don't see any issue with disclosing that anyway.
Yeah.
That would be, a common sense approach to that. Yeah.
Yeah, we can certainly do that.
Councillor Taylor. All right, Tina. Yep. Any other? We'll pretty well take it as there,
Yep, so
unless
in terms of the suggestions
councillors
I
that
put
have read
forward,
through it
yep.
have got any
And we'll just
issues
soften
with
that
any of
paragraph.
the ones. Yep. Cool. All right. Any other questions and queries on the policy or on the code of conduct?
So we can just change that to as amended.
Yep. All right. Any other questions of Tina? No. Someone happy to move that suggested recommendation there? Thank you, Councillor Nye, seconded by Councillor Rankin. All those in favour, please say aye. Against? Carried. Very good. Thank you very much, Tina. You must stay there. Council engagements for February 2020.
So there's our list of engagements. We've also booked you out for the 4th of February for some workshops. So we're just working through the content of those, and we'll send you an update in your calendars as to what the topics are and the time frames for those. So they'll be out probably Monday, hopefully.
Okay.
There's also some information there in relation to making good decisions as part of the RMA, and some opportunities to attend the foundational course. And last time we had 3 elected members who had attended the foundational course. It needs to be a review. If you pass, then there needs to be there's a review period after 2 years. So just be aware of that. And then the other thing which I emailed you yesterday was the chairing workshop at Waipa on the 21st of February, I think it was. So we could add that as is up on that resolution to attend those training opportunities.
Just
Councillor
through
Park.
just through the chair, Tina, have you got placeholders for the Auckland and Wellington making good decisions? Because I see on the oversight they're fully booked in these wait lists.
Right. Well, when I did put the agenda item together, they weren't. So, yeah. Thank you.
All right. Okay. Thanks, Tina. Is anyone going? Anyone making good the foundation course? Anyone want to go? Kevin?
Well, I was going to say I thought it was Councillor Westerman and myself.
Oh, it's all there. Okay.
But if they're fully booked, then I'll just.
There's still 2, but they're not.
I'm.
And the flights
Christchurch. Yeah, that's fine. Like I'm happy to go.
Well, perhaps we put your confirm your names anyway.
We can talk offline
and then talk offline
as
as
to
the
dates.
detail.
I'd also put my name forward to
Okay. So Councillors Leonard, Taylor and Westman. Very good. No other questions or queries on those dates and that sort of thing? All right, could I have a mover, please?
And then for number 3, around the chairing practice, so Councillor Leonard and Councillor Guy indicated an interest in attending.
Through the chair, I'm always one for upskilling and learning, but is this an equipped course, the same run by the same people that did the? Yeah, Can I please put my name in there? But I just want to do some more research into it.
Yeah.
About whether it's worth it. Thanks.
Yeah, it's a foundation course, and I presume it's mainly for new ones, is it or no?
Normally it
would
be for new ones, but of course existing members can still go. Yep.
Okay, cool. All right. Yeah. All right. So Councillor Park has indicated that she possibly could be interested.
Just given the cost of it, I'd just like to look into it more because I'm always wanting to improve, but considering what I got out of the last equipped course, I don't want to waste ratepayers' money.
All right. Okay. So that being said, do I have a mover, please? Moved by Councillor Williamson, seconded by Councillor Mack. All those in favour, please say aye. Against, carried. Right, members' reports. Tina.
So really just revamp the members' reports to reflect the portfolio areas.
Yep.
Yep.
So perhaps if I go through them quickly, just to see if there's any add, and then if there's any extra reports. So economic and business, Christine and Kathy, sorry.
Well, the main thing tonight is that Kathy and I are meeting with the economic development team every 2 weeks. I think it is.
Right.
Meeting. So we're just making sure that we're keeping ourselves informed.
Okay.
I don't think there's anything specific to talk about in terms of those meetings yet.
Cool. Kathy? That's about same, yep. Okay. Kevin? Sport and Rec?
And I've met with most of the key stakeholder groups already, and I'd like to express my thanks to Councillor Park for enabling some of those introductions, so thanks, Anna. No, it's all going well. I've plugged the Bike Taupo group into the draft of the transportation policy. They want to have some input there, which seemed appropriate to me, so that's underway. And I'll be in Hamilton tonight for the Waikato Sports Awards. I look forward to that. Yeah. At which I promised to wear a tie.
Bow tie. You might have to send us a photo, I think. All right, thanks, Kevin. Youth, Anna, Park.
Yeah, just through the chair, just given the time of year and that we're just about to get all our younger generation back to school and whatnot, I don't have anything to report in this area.
Okay. Older persons. I thought that was more senior persons, but...
Well, as the senior councillor here, I accept that with acknowledgement.
Yeah. Yes, no problems. Nothing to report?
I do have a little bit to report. Many of us won't remember, back in, I think, 2004, the council presented a policy for the older person. Really not much has changed. But in April of last year, we started to form a number of meetings, and the first one took place on the 11th of April. Here's a photograph of that big workshop. We're forming a policy for the older person, and fortuitously, and I'll read the name out, at that first meeting on the 11th of April, we had Dame Peggy Copeman-Boyden, which I think, David, Your Worship, you may know that family, who gave our time free, and last week, or about 10 days ago, she came back to follow on with that procedure. We're looking at our Taupo age-friendly community plan. There are 9 issues to be addressed. We'll be looking at those to work out what central government's responsibility is and what's not. Since that 11th of April meeting, we've had meetings in Turangi, meetings in Mangakino, meetings at one of our retirement in Rifle Range Road. We've had a huge number of meetings as a committee, and there will be a presentation, and I think Shani's been involved with this from that group probably in February or March. Now, I've got to give a big round of applause to Veronica King, who has done a lot of work of this. We've got funding from the Minister, I think it's the Minister for the Old Person. We had a length of time to complete it. We've run out of time, but that has been turned over, so we're still progressing as we are. This is the Hamilton age-friendly document. It's printed on both sides. That it's very, very extensive. And I think one of the things we've got to remember, when we talk about what's good for the older person, it's good for everyone in the community, and that's the sort of what would you call it, headline that we're putting forward. What's good for the elderly is also good for the younger person. So there'll be an update. I'm not sure it's going to be a meeting prior to council or part of the council or a workshop. I don't think it'll be a workshop. That's not necessary. But I've got to congratulate those that have involved for where we've got to the moment. My main job has been to attend these meetings to say it is the face of council, and there's others doing the background work.
Cool. Thanks very much, Councillor Boddy. Arts and Culture, Councillor Westman, anything to report? Turn the speaker on. Sorry.
getting a lot of information and huge wish lists on what people think museums and cultural centres should look like, and visitations from people like Richard Hoadley. Kind of thinking I need a job description to kick the ball off, and not too sure who to go to get some background and start making some go forward movement.
So through your worship, I can probably help a little bit there. That I think we've got a so on top of the arts and culture portfolio area, which is the whole piece across the district. In terms of the museum, we have a little working group of you, which Councillor Westerman is one. I can't remember the other two off the top of my head, but there's 3 councillors on that working group. Philip King's managing that from my perspective. Our plan is to have a meeting with those 3 councillors, Philip, myself and Barry Hickling as our go-to very soon, which will then start to map out the next little while of dialogue on that project. So we were just talking about it this morning, but imagine within the next sort of couple of weeks we'll be able to have that, which will start to clarify some of those for you.
Okay, so we've started off with the smoke-free, which is obviously all about educational with the anti-vaping. That's gone down really well. Everybody loves it. Again, I suppose it's how you sell a product, and unfortunately, I think what it does is it allows you to at least talk about it. And at the end of the day, it's people getting upset about the fact that we're actually imposing something more than anything. A lot of them don't even vape, but it's the fact that they feel that we're imposing on their freedom. And I suppose when you talk about it and say we're not, it's a recommendation. You don't smoke in restaurants, you don't smoke on planes, you know what I mean? You don't vape in those places either. It's education, and I think you just have to accept that people don't like certain things, but if we talk about it, it at least gets it out there, and it's not really designed for you to be vaping all the time, you know what I mean? It's meant to be that it gets you off cigarettes. And then we've done the environment portfolio this morning. We just did an overview. I think that's going to be a big one actually, because obviously with all the stuff that we've signed up to, that we obviously have to sign up to, and we have to then somehow cost it all, like the zero carbon footprint, all this other stuff. It's going to impact what we actually do. So it's quite a cool one, and I think this morning it was quite interesting that, you know, the amount of work that's done in the background, and we did talk about it again, it's all about that communication, that if people hear what we actually do as a council, it's quite amazing what we do, and I think it's just getting it out there as to how beneficial it is to everyone.
Yeah, thanks, Ned, all of the above. And also I attended a Lakes Wailoa Action Group meeting last month, and I can't remember the gentleman's name, he was one of the head, I think, operation manager at Moraka. He gave a very interesting talk, you know, about their general operation, what they do out there, and particularly around sustainability, you know, protecting the environment, around the carbon and nitrogen, and that was very interesting. So I did have some notes at home, so I can perhaps provide those, you know, some notes from the meeting. Yeah.
That'd be good if you could give us those, yeah. Cool. Thanks very much, John. Environment, Mangakino, unfortunately Kirsty's away. Community safety, Tong or Kevin, anything to add to that? Obviously we have an active arson list at the moment.
Yeah, which is a significant risk. Couple of things really quickly. The safe trading area up at AC Bars has been operating for some considerable weeks now, so I've had feedback talking to John Goddard from Taupo Police, who did most of the legwork from the police side of it. For their understanding, it's had some pretty good take-up. It's too early to tell in the crime patterns what changes have occurred. That'll come out in time. But can I just encourage everybody to push that? It's a demographic who we're trying to target to use that, who can be somewhat too trusting online, and you're talking concert tickets, cell phones, iPads, small, some high value items where you put money into an account on Facebook or Trade Me or wherever, expecting it to arrive, and mysteriously it doesn't. So it's a first for New Zealand. I think it's actually a really good initiative. So apart from that, and many of you attended the meeting at Taupo last night, that's an ongoing issue.
Cool. All right, international relations.
So, yeah, just through the chair, so international relations sort of sits under the umbrella of economic development. So there is the economic development and international relations catch-ups with Mr. Ridd and Jess on a regular basis, which so it all feeds in together. Which, so in early stages, not much report in the international relations space. I'm just trying to get myself au fait with where we're at with all the different relationships, and also the Kitabashi, that information with Councillor Stewart retiring. There's just a knowledge gap there, so I hope to meet with Maggie next Wednesday before the TTCB meeting, so I'll probably have more to update at the next members' report. But could I just suggest perhaps with these member reports, perhaps if the chair roles perhaps as well, maybe if it's just councillor and then their areas, so that because there'll be emergency management stuff to talk about and whatnot, but it's not actually detailed. Yes, I'm not sure how you're going to structure it.
Yeah, we can have a talk about that. You're confirming the minutes, their meetings at the start of the minutes. I'd prefer probably the chair, well, not to talk about all the items, but like then this will become quite elongated then, wouldn't it?
Yeah, some weeks there won't be anything, some months there might not be.
Yeah. Well, perhaps if you are chair of a particular group while you're doing your portfolio, you could mention and as chair or something.
Yeah, I don't know if it is.
I'll talk to Tina about that as to how we might do that. That's a good idea. Yes, Councillor Leonard.
Just to give a brief rural update, just to let you know that on the 3rd of March is the New Zealand Dairy Industry Awards Central Plateau celebration, which will be held in Rotorua, because the council normally fund $2,500 towards the event, even though Rotorua is not part of the Central Plateau.
Oh.
But if anybody would like to attend as part of the Taupo District Council.
So have they ever sent us an application to hold it here?
No, because they get funding through the Rotorua Council, that there's a funding process for them to go through.
$2.5 bugger all. Oh, sorry. 2.5 grand. Like to perhaps we'll talk offline. Yeah.
But just to let people know, if you did want to
Central Plateau
come.
doesn't conjure up Rotorua. Yep, good. Is the rural a portfolio or just a committee? Or there's no portfolio for it, no. Okay. All right, so perhaps we should get the committee ones on here too. Yeah, true. Yeah, good point. All right, thank you very much, councillors. Obviously early times in the year, but starting to kick off. The things are starting to fill up pretty quick, especially it's going to be an exciting year of major projects on the go and doing all that sort of thing. So it's been great to have the new councillors particularly on board. You guys have been fantastic, and your contribution so far is truly appreciated. Right, there's a suggested recommendation there that we receive the information. Over the mover, thank you, Councillor Westerman, seconded by Councillor Williamson. All those in favour, please say aye. Against? Carried.